It's human nature to require justice. Somehow we need to know in our bones that the kind of harm that was done to us as children is not right and should not have happened, and someone should have to come to our aid. And yet the people who harm kids rarely take responsibility for it. So many of us never get an apology, or we lack the basic support of a family, or we get shamed and ostracized by them. And still, even though you can clearly feel the empty place inside sometimes, we find a way to heal and go forward. My letter today is from a man I'll call Robert, and he writes, "Hi, Anna. Would you please help me to heal my broken heart and help me free myself from the ongoing feeling like I'm not acceptable enough for someone's love, affection, and acceptance?" All right, I've got the fairy pencil here. I'm going to circle things I want to come back to. Very good question. But let's read through. Let's see what's going on in Robert's life. My mind keeps replaying painful memories of abuse, which include physical abuse, beatings, starvation, being burned with heated objects, being locked in rooms and basements, neglect, isolation, bullied by former schoolmates, assault, racial hatred, religious trauma, and oppression. Oh, Robert. Okay. I desire to find a suitable partner for a loving relationship and happiness, but I find myself constantly rejected, stood up, ghosted, and denied love and romance and affection from other men in my gay community that happens to be predominantly white where I live currently. I'm a Black 48-year-old gay man. I grew up in a small town with 3 sisters and 1 brother. I had a drug-addicted mother and a dogmatic, dictatorial father who was addicted to violence. I was the black sheep in my family, and the role I played was scapegoat. My mother was a rageaholic, especially when it came to difficulty with getting her next drug fix. I was also the family slave, doing most of the household chores and being the man of the house at age 7. This is a lot, Robert. I'm with you, though. I'm with you. What a hard time you've been through. One of the reasons I was treated with such abuse was due to my being gay, which subjected me to hatred, torture, religious abuse, and spiritual terrorism and oppression. My family suspected me of being gay long before I ever realized I was gay. There was no coming out of the closet for me because there was never a closet for me to come out of. I hear what you're saying. It felt like I was born guilty and in great need of being fixed. And the method that was used to attempt to fix me was a style of exorcism, basically praying the gay away. When that didn't work, they turned to beating the gay out of me. Within the Black community, being gay was a religious nightmare, filled with physical, spiritual, psychological abuse, and rotten treatment. My own mother spit in my face and told me that she hated me and wished I was dead, before beating the living hell out of me for simply eating a piece of bread I found in the trash can while doing house chores. She liked to use starvation as punishment, especially where I was concerned. Oh, honey, this is quite terrible. So sorry. My brother and sisters were not abused by both my parents. In fact, they were my parents' pride and joy, and had it not been for my brother and younger sisters sneaking me food when my mother was not looking, I would have been starved to death. They risked getting into trouble sneaking me food. Their love for me then helped me keep going mentally and emotionally. I finally ran away from home at age 15 and went to the West Coast and have never returned back home to live there again. Yes, I practically raised myself alone in the streets. I'm sorry you had to do that, but I'm glad you left. I earned my GED through the Job Corps, which is a federally funded youth program for low-income youth. I learned to become a certified nurse's assistant and worked in a wide range of medical settings, and then became a licensed practical nurse, went to college, and earned a degree in social work. I've worked with people who suffered many levels of mental illness, and right after the beginning of COVID-19, I trained to work in private security. And currently, I work closely with law enforcement protecting people's property with the power and authority to arrest and place criminals in jail. As you can see, I have dedicated my life to the service of my community and country. Back in my home state, I was considered a loser and an abomination, but in my life today, I'm considered a hero, especially when I'm in uniform. Last year, I completed 25 years worth of psychological therapy. learning to love myself, and working on coming to terms with being hated by my own family. Most of my immediate family are dead, including my mother, who died of COVID, my father of pancreatic cancer, my brother of alcohol abuse, and all three of my sisters of COVID. I'm technically a virgin because no one has ever fallen in love with me romantically. I'm wondering if my experience with abuse has set me up for being single for the rest of my life. My Blackness, especially in the local gay community, seems to get in the way of my romantic life. I'm very afraid of dating Black men because of my experience getting abused by them. I'm a man with a heart of gold. I'm not mean and hateful, seething with desires of revenge for how I was treated by my former abusers. In fact, I learned how to forgive them and find compassion for them. Maybe they experienced in their childhoods what they did to me. Deep in my heart, I feel like I need accountability and closure and an apology from my former abusers, but there has never been accountability or validation or an apology. There is this hole in my heart where the family should be. Yeah, I relate. I'm trying to feel comfortable within my own skin and make the pain in my heart go away. Today, I'm experiencing profound loneliness and despair. I've tried many things to connect with gay men in search of a partner for me, and despite all my efforts, I continually find myself rejected, dumped, ghosted, let down, and disappointed. I'm very close to giving up on love and romance and living my life alone forever, if only to save what is left of my sanity and self-esteem. Can you please help me? Oh, Robert, as you can see, it's been very emotional for me to read your letter. I really feel for you, and it's so wrong what they did to you. It's just not right. You were just a little kid. And I do hear you. You are a hero. You do good things for your community, and really it's a miracle. I hear that the romance thing is not going well, and your family has treated you badly. But look what you've done. You've done the most important thing, which is to bring love into the world, to bring kindness and help and support to people. And you've done that through all your jobs. And you were able to get your GED and go to this Job Corps thing. You know, I know how hard that is. I do, you know, I meet people in my life, and I come from a family that was very broken. And I know how hard it is to overcome this thing where they treated you, you know, when you said you were the scapegoat and the black sheep, I thought that was a mistake, but you were the scapegoat and the black sheep. And they treated you so badly. And some of your experiences I don't have and won't have, and others I have, but it's enough that I'm just so glad you're here, Robert. And you didn't deserve that. And I don't know you, and I'm just going to guess that the way that you connect with people when you're getting close to them, and because you're choosing people who are part of this community where some people are abusive, you're saying, which is not all gay men, it's not all black men, but there's something in the way that you feel attracted to people, which is what we do. Our attraction gets like tweaked to something sort of like the parents, and that's what early healing is like. But now you're in a more mature level of healing, and you can start to change that. But how you change it first is you start to let it go. Sometimes not having relationships, not having romantic, escapades is where you create that space where your attraction can evolve so that you are drawn to men who are good to you, who care about you, who accept all the parts of you, even the parts that are reactive, maybe. I'm just guessing. I have complex PTSD. I can be reactive. I'm a difficult partner sometimes when I'm angry, when I feel like I'm being ignored. I can be very prickly or worse sometimes. So maybe you're like me. Maybe under stress, your trauma side comes out. And it's really great when you can do enough healing that you can come into a relationship without the level of reactivity that ruins everything. That's the object of the game here. And you didn't even tell me you have that. So you said you'd really like to find a way to have a loving relationship. And I just happen to know when that is a person's heart's desire, that's right for them. It's the right thing for them. But most of us who are traumatized, and the more traumatized sometimes, the more there is to overcome. There's healing to do so that we can be, you use the word suitable. You want a suitable partner. You're ready to be a suitable partner. You bring a lot. So there's something there. Maybe it's a hidden avoidance in yourself. And you know how we avoid sometimes? We avoid by choosing people who are unavailable or unworkable or even abusive. That's a weird form of avoidance. And we're not doing it consciously. And there's no like psychological rhyme or reason for it. It's a reflex left over from trauma. So we give it space to heal. And so one of the things that I would recommend to you is to be in a community of other people healing. Whether that would be in our membership, we'd be happy to have you at Crappy Childhood Fairy. You could be in a 12-step program. You could be in all the above. A therapy group, but someplace where you're with other people who are working on this aspect of life too. And who, as they tell their stories of what they've struggled with and what they're changing, you're learning all the time, you're soaking it in. And when you tell what happened to you, they get it because they have things in common with you. So just as I hear what you're saying in a way that somebody who's never had trauma maybe doesn't hear it, you know, you belong with people like us who get it. We all need to be with people who get it. And I heard this thing about people with PTSD. I think they were talking about like soldiers with acute PTSD, the kind that came from a battle. Actually, I think a lot of soldiers who have PTSD from a battle had underlying CPTSD that drew them into the military in the first place. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And so sometimes we have both. I'm somebody who has both. I had adult trauma on top of childhood trauma. And when the two happened at the same time, you know, when the adult trauma came, boom, it got all the childhood trauma out of the bag. And I started being a very difficult person. So that stuff, we get to face and be rid of it when we have a solution to help process the thoughts and feelings of what happened. Now, probably because of all the involvement you've had with mental health and doing good things for yourself, I'm guessing you've had a chance to talk about how hard your childhood was. If you haven't, you might want a therapist for that. But there's also tools for using every day when that feeling, that agitation, that anxiety comes up, like, oh, I'm going to get rejected again. I'm going to get ghosted. I don't know how to act. I don't know what to do with my hands. When that comes up, there needs to be, you know what to do with your hands? You grab a pencil and you get paper out. It's very nice if you date people who are okay with the fact that you use techniques actually to self-regulate. I'm making it sound like it's weird, like wearing a helmet or something, but it's not. It's like wearing protection for your emotions and for the way that your nervous system works. That's what it is. And it's not crazy. It's very sane. It's a very sturdy person's thing to do, is to take care of themselves in that way. So everybody in my life knows that I write and meditate and that I take time out sometimes to do it. I kind of love that I've been able to create a job for myself doing Crappy Childhood Fairy, so that even if I'm doing like a live workshop, I'm like, and now it's time, we're all going to write and meditate. And I'm like right there, I'm like, oh, because I'll have a lot of like emotion built up about the fact that I'm on stage. Am I doing okay? What does everybody think? And what about where the lunch ran out over there? You know, I'll be thinking about all this stuff and I'm tripping on it and it's getting in the way. So we need a way to process that. The trauma that you went through, which was severe, this is what it does to kids. It can make it very hard. It's an injury to your nervous system that makes it hard to process your thoughts and feelings. So they get very jammed up in there. It's very noisy. There's a lot going on. There's reactivity to stuff you're not even conscious of. There's just like a lot of thoughts and feelings stuck. And so we start to move them out. We start to name them. And this is my technique. We write them on paper. We ask for them to be removed. And then we rest our minds in meditation. It's a very specific technique. It's a free course. I'm going to link to it at the end of this, the daily practice. And it's totally detailed in my book, Re-Regulated, how to do it. I want everybody who wants it to know how to do it. But this is when the distress comes, you have a way to get the distress out. It's on paper. And instead you have space. You can take a breath. You can have perspective. You can try again. You know, you have newness coming from you. And it's a very precious thing, newness, you know, the feeling that something new is possible, not the same old of what happened before, no longer identified and branded by your father's and your mother's rage and neglect and cruelty to you, rejection, not identified with that. That is so much their stuff. That's their stuff. I'm not saying you're crazy to be affected by it, but it is not yours. It's theirs. It's their pathology. But when you say these things to a child, they get in. And so what you're doing now as an adult is you're naming it and moving it back out again. Of course, this isn't true about you. You are not unacceptable. You're quite an accomplished person, and you're capable of love. And this is beautiful. This is so good. I don't think it's a coincidence sometimes. Most of the people in my family died, and when they did, that's when a lot of my healing happened. Because when we're still entangled with them, we're still reacting to them, we're still hoping, if I'm just good enough, will you approve of me? Then it kind of takes us away from where healing really happens, which is just kind of realizing it's well, I'm on my own now. And I mean, for many of us, we're never really alone because of our spirituality, or because we're a human being, we're never really alone. But I hope you hear what I'm saying, that the healing process is going to be, we're going to do it. We're going to find our way. We're going to decide how to do it. We're going to decide what we're not going to do. We're going to decide who to recruit for help. We're going to visit things and try them and reject them. They're not right. We're in charge now. And you become very empowered when you start letting that in, that you're in charge now. And so I hope that in addition to all your professional accomplishments, you can start to have a very deep life, extracurricular life, supporting yourself as a person, as a man, as a gay man, as a spirit, to be able to give yourself that connection with people and fulfillment of who you really are through relationships with people. And it's totally fine for it to be with friends at first. And you didn't talk much about your friend life. I would imagine people adore you. But friends are a very important way to start learning to have that connection. And for dating, it puts us in a luxury position where, because my friends are there, I know that I can go on a date, and if it turns out really badly, I don't have to grovel. I don't have to crap fit and try to, pretend I'm okay with something that's unacceptable to me just so I don't have to be alone, because I have my friends. So I can just show up. I don't date anymore. I've been married for a long time, but I can just show up, just hypothetically, you can just show up with people and sit on your throne and go, how do I feel about this person who I'm having a coffee with? And I encourage you to go very slowly with people. And gay men tell me all the time, that's not the culture. And I know maybe for a lot of people, it's not, but it can be for you, just because with what happened to you, that attachment that happens, for those of us who were neglected and rejected as kids, get this quick attachment, and it doesn't help us. It causes us to make the stakes go too high, jump in too fast, make that person have to love us, or we're going to die. That's what it feels like. That's what abandonment feels like when you actually were abandoned, as you were when you were a kid. And so we go slowly. We get to know people for a while first. And because face it, let's be honest, no matter how much you tell yourself, I'm not going to get attached, this is just for fun, right? Does it work? Or does it just destroy you, right? So slowly getting to know somebody and beginning to reveal your real self. I started this idea earlier. I was talking about people who have classical PTSD, like from a battle. There's this idea they have of a cover story. Have you ever heard this? So combat veterans talk about having a cover story, because telling our story of how bad it was can be so upsetting and triggering that we don't want to do it all the time. So when people are when we need to explain what happened for some reason, to get help from the VA or something, then there's the cover story where you have a few highlights. It's not untrue, but it's very carefully selected to explain how bad it was without going into the badness, without going into the aspects of it that trigger you. And that's something else we do as traumatized people in relationships, is sometimes, especially, your parents didn't give you, you were not parented. You didn't get that. So it's only natural when you are faced with somebody you are attracted to romantically and sexually, that desire to be parented by them, to be loved in that unconditional way, it kicks in real fast. And it freaks people out. It's actually not appropriate in a dating situation. It's for down the line, but it's still even in a deep forever marriage, it's not appropriate to try to get somebody to be your parent. It's natural to try, but we have to we have to counterbalance against that and be like, no, they're not, somebody I've gone on a date with does not owe me unconditional love. And it's my job to get to know them and see if there's somebody that I would like to see. Would I like them to be a boyfriend? Would I like them to be a major partner? How do I feel about them? Is this the person that I really want to be with? And that's a big getting to know you process. And you will find that even if all kinds of people are doing things a different way, when you set what you want, you get very clear what you want, and you go ahead and follow through on what you want by not dating people who are not what you want. When you know who you want, it doesn't make sense to date people who are not that. So you start to discern right there. Once you're not dating people who are upsetting and disappointing, your radar doesn't get jammed. Things can go a lot better, and that beautiful spirit of you can come shining through. And that's how people fall in love with you, is when you're shiny like that, when that spirit is shining through. You might want to take my dating course if you want to check that out. But my first thing for you, all my courses and things are always down in the description section down below every video, and there's a little more thing that you can click. You'll see like 3 lines of description. You click that more button. A lot of people don't know this. Whoop, it opens up and there's like everything there. Or you can go to my website. But I want to leave you with my free course, The Daily Practice, so that you have a way starting today, starting right now, to start moving the distress out and allowing that full, good feeling some space in your heart and mind. So you can download that right there, and I will see you very soon.